The grass had grown long near the edge of the clearing, dry, brittle, a pale shade of yellow, cracked by months of drought. It waved lightly in the early morning wind, just enough to cover what looked like a rock. But it wasn't a rock. It was a baby elephant, not standing, not moving, just lying there, body pressed against the earth as if it was trying to disappear into it. His back rose with each shallow breath, but his belly bulged in a way that no calf's belly ever should. A swelling, large, round, red. A silent scream pressing outward from the inside. He had walked alone, for who knows how long. There were no tracks, no herd, only the faint drag of his feet in the dust behind him, and the way his side had collapsed near the small watering hole. No one had seen him arrive, but there he was, still, half covered by wind-blown grass, a single fly resting on the curve of the swollen mass beneath his belly, then another, and another. The sun hadn't risen fully yet, but its light caught on the boy's window, the one facing the clearing. He didn't hear the sounds most others did, but he saw everything. And that morning, the shape in the grass wasn't like any other. He stepped outside, barefoot, quiet, wrapped in a blanket that dragged behind him. He crossed the clearing like someone who had done it 100 times, but slower now, careful. The elephant calf didn't lift his head, but when the boy got close, something shifted. 1 foot, the front right. He tried to lift it, not to stand, but just to move it forward toward the boy. And then, he dropped it again, hard, like the strength had left even his bones. The boy didn't move closer. He just sat, a few feet away, wrapped tighter in the blanket, eyes fixed on the creature that had chosen to lie there, right there, as if this place could still offer mercy. Time passed. The wind picked up. The flies grew bold. The swelling seemed to pulse now, as if something deep inside was alive and pushing outward. But the calf didn't move again. Only his eye blinked, slow, dragging. And once, it closed for a little longer than before. The boy reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. It was a dried seed, round, smooth. He held it in his hand and stared at it for a long time. Then, with slow hands, he leaned forward and placed it gently in the grass between them. Not a gift, not a game, just a presence, a silent gesture in a world where words had no power. And as the sun rose higher, the boy stayed, and the elephant stayed. And something unseen held the space between them open. The pain wasn't gone. The swelling was still there. But something had begun. The kind of something that doesn't come from sound. The kind that comes from stillness, and the willingness to witness what most would turn away from. That was the morning a dying calf laid down and begged with his body. And a boy who couldn't hear heard him anyway. But no one else had seen the boy leave the house, or what was coming just behind him. The sky had turned pale blue now, the soft kind of morning light that made even dust look like gold. And still, the boy sat. The elephant hadn't moved, not even a blink now. The lump beneath his belly had grown taut with pressure, red at the edges, yellow near the middle, as if something beneath the skin wanted to break free, or burst. It wasn't just an abscess. It was a wound that had been left too long, an old pain that had grown large in silence. Behind the boy, soft footsteps approached. A woman, older in boots worn smooth and laces long undone, emerged from the hut at the edge of the trees. She held a kettle of water. Her eyes, sharp from a lifetime of noticing what others miss, locked onto the clearing. Then, the shape, the calf, the boy. She stopped mid-step. The wind tugged her coat, but she didn't move forward. Instead, she placed the kettle on the stump by the door, took a long breath, and opened the wooden chest they hadn't used in years. Inside, cloth, gauze, a bottle of iodine, still half full, and a pair of scissors, rusted but sharp. She didn't say a word. No call. No shout. She simply filled a metal bowl with warm water and began walking. Meanwhile, the boy had done something no one expected. He had taken off his blanket, the one he wore wrapped tight around his shoulders, and folded it into a soft square. With slow care, he reached forward and placed it near the elephant's front foot, not touching, just near. The calf didn't react at first, but then his eye opened again. He saw the color, the texture, the offering. A low, guttural breath escaped him. Not a trumpet, not a cry, just air strained through suffering. The boy looked up, eyes wide, not afraid, but full of something older than fear. Recognition. The woman arrived a few paces behind him. She didn't speak. She knelt down beside the boy and looked at the calf, then at the belly. Her face changed. This wasn't a minor wound. This was survival balanced on a thread. She soaked the cloth, held the gauze up to the light, and without warning, the elephant tried to rise. His trunk shook, his legs buckled, but he fell again, hard, dust rising around him like smoke. The woman paused. No straps, no ropes, no needles, just her hands, the water, and a boy who had already earned the calf's trust. Without a single word, she looked at the boy, then at the seed still lying in the grass between them, and somehow she understood. Whatever healing would happen here had already begun. Her job was not to fix, it was to follow. So she sat, laid the tools out on a cloth beside her, and waited for the calf to open his eye again, to breathe, to lift his trunk, to give permission, not with words, but with presence. And when that moment came, the boy did something unexpected that changed the way she would treat every animal after. The dust had settled, the woman's knees were grounded, the tools beside her. The boy still sat, cross-legged, blanketless, silent. He had placed both palms on the earth, not pressing, just resting there, as if to remind the elephant, "We are here, we are staying." The calf's breathing slowed, still labored, but steady now. Then, a flicker, one eye, half closed, fluttered, a slow blink, then a deeper inhale, not a gasp, a decision. He turned his head slightly, exposing the side of his belly. Not much, but just enough. Enough for her to see it clearly. The abscess was no longer hidden by shadow or fear. It pulsed beneath the skin, a terrible balloon of pressure. The woman took the cloth again, dipped it into the warm water, and wrung it gently. Not toward the abscess. Not yet. She started by wiping the calf's ears, a gesture of respect, of patience. She had learned that from her father, how animals listen with their bodies, how you must greet them through stillness. One wipe, then two. The boy watched. Then he stood, took one small step forward, then another. He didn't reach. He didn't try to touch. Instead, he crouched beside the elephant's trunk and placed his own forehead gently near it, not on it, near. The elephant didn't move away. The woman exhaled slowly. She placed the gauze into a bowl of warm iodine. She didn't rush. She waited until the calf blinked once more, slower this time, accepting. Then, in one steady motion, she pressed the gauze gently to the edge of the abscess. The calf tensed. His legs kicked weakly, but he didn't rise. Instead, his trunk reached toward the boy. It brushed the child's foot, and the boy didn't flinch. He simply leaned closer, as if offering his breath to the moment. Then the skin broke, just barely. The fluid escaped, dark, yellow, with the smell of infection and suffering. But it was the start. A single drop was all it took. The calf released a long, trembling sigh, and his body softened against the earth. The woman didn't speak. She just cleaned, pressed gently, let the body lead. Again and again, she dipped the cloth, rinsed, dabbed, until the swelling eased, until the fluid slowed, until the skin, though still open, no longer looked angry. She looked at the boy. He was crying, not loud, not shaking, but tears streamed down his cheeks, as if something deep inside had cracked open, not from pain, but from relief, from belonging. He touched the elephant's trunk just once, and this time, the trunk curled gently, holding his hand. No one moved. No one breathed loud. And in that stillness, a bond deeper than language was sealed. But the real test came hours later, when the sun dipped low and they heard the sounds in the distance. Evening fell like a curtain of smoke. The woman lit 2 lanterns and placed them on opposite sides of the small clearing, one near the cabin, one near the trees, not to scare anything away, just to warn. We're here. We see you. The calf lay still, wrapped in quiet ache. The wound had been drained. The pressure eased, but the pain remained like a ghost tucked beneath his ribs. The boy hadn't left his side, not once. He lay beside the elephant now, not touching but close, a small hand resting on the earth, still, like an anchor. The woman placed blankets around both of them, then returned to the porch. She sat, not rocking, just watching. Then, in the distance, a sound, not loud, but sharp, a snap, a shuffle, from the trees. Her eyes didn't blink. The calf's ears twitched. The boy lifted his head. Another sound. Behind them this time. Not close, but not far enough. She stood slowly, picked up the old metal kettle by the door, dented, scratched. She knocked it twice with a wooden spoon. Sharp, deliberate, then silence, but the kind that listens back. The woman waited. Then, from the tree line, movement, not fast, not aggressive, but circling, a set of eyes, then another. Yellow glints, 3, 4, jackals, or worse. The boy stood now, not screaming, not crying. He stepped in front of the elephant, so small, so still, and the calf raised his head, heavy, slow, but high enough to see. He let out one low rumble, not loud, but low enough to carry. The woman's breath caught, not in fear, in awe, because behind that sound was something ancient, not a cry, a declaration. I'm not alone. From the trees the eyes blinked, then vanished, just like that. No chase, no fight, only respect. The boy turned to the elephant, and without hesitation, curled into the space between his legs and belly, the same place that hours ago held only pain. Now, it held shelter, warmth, home. The woman lowered her hand. The spoon slipped from her fingers. A breeze passed, soft, carrying dust and memory and something like peace. She sat back on the step, watching the two of them, boy and calf, asleep in the center of the clearing, the lanterns flickering, the stars blinking above like silent witnesses. She didn't know what would happen tomorrow, but tonight no one bled, no one ran, no one left, just breath and rest, and one soft trunk curled protectively around a child's shoulder. And when dawn returned, it wasn't just the sun that arrived, it was them. Morning crept in slowly, not with sound, but with weight, a stillness so thick it felt like the trees were holding their breath. The woman opened the door. The kettle was cold. The boy was still asleep, one arm over his eyes. The calf hadn't moved, but then something shifted. The wind, it turned, bringing with it a scent not born from the forest, dust and distance and something ancient. The calf lifted his head, not sharply, but like a flag rising slowly after a long storm. His ears flicked, his breath deepened, and then a tremor, not the earth, but under it, like footsteps remembered. The woman froze. The boy sat up, rubbed his eyes, then looked toward the hills. They came like shadows first, blurred by heat, hidden by light. But as they drew closer, their shapes took form. Elephants, not many, 5, maybe 6. Not a herd, a remnant. They moved cautiously, not toward the cabin, but toward him. The calf didn't run. He stood, slowly, with legs that still trembled. But he stood. The boy rose too, eyes wide, not frightened, just searching. The calf looked to him, then to the trees, then back. He took one step toward the others. They stopped. The matriarch stepped forward, older, with deep notches in her ears. Her gaze was fixed, not on the house, not on the boy, on him. A low rumble rolled through the air, not aggressive, a recognition, a calling. The calf paused, then took another step, and another, until he was halfway between the boy and the herd. The woman stayed still, so did the child, and in that space a choice hovered, not spoken, not explained, just held, like breath. The calf turned, one last look, to the boy, to the porch, to the spot where pain once ruled, and was met with gentleness. And then he returned, not all the way, just far enough to brush the boy's hand with the tip of his trunk. A gesture, a thank you, a goodbye that didn't want to be one. Then he turned again and walked toward the trees. But halfway through the field he stopped and looked back, this time, waiting. The matriarch stepped aside. The boy stood frozen, but the woman, she nodded, not as command, as blessing. The boy ran, arms out, silent. The calf lowered his head. Their foreheads touched, briefly, just once. Then the boy stepped back, and the calf disappeared into the forest. With them, not limping, not alone. But that wasn't the end, because one day, He returned, and he wasn't alone. The seasons had passed like soft pages. Wind had changed. Rain had carved new paths in the earth. And the boy, now taller, no longer looked toward the hills each morning, but he still walked the same path, past the hollow where the elephant had once collapsed, past the stump where they had laid cloth and salve, past the old trough where water now gathered on its own. And one morning, something was different. Not the sound, not the smell, the air. It pulsed, like memory coming alive. He stepped outside. The grass was bent, but not from storm, from weight, recent weight. His eyes followed the curve of the field, to the edge, to the shadows. And there, standing still, was him, older now, taller, heavier, with a scar running down his side like a carved river. He didn't move. He didn't trumpet. He just stood. The boy didn't run. He walked, barefoot as always, no fear, no hesitation. But as he drew close, he saw there was another, a smaller calf, barely able to stand, pressed to the older elephant's side. Its eyes were dull, its belly swollen, its movements slow and unsure. The boy stopped. The older elephant took one step forward, then lowered his trunk and pointed to the calf. Then to the house. It wasn't loud. It wasn't desperate. It was exactly as he had once done. In another time, another body, a request, a plea, a memory offered back. The boy turned, ran inside. The woman, older now, gray at the edges, met his eyes. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Together, they gathered everything again. The cloth, the warm water, the herbs, the soft touch. And when they returned, the older elephant had stepped aside, letting the calf lie down, right there, on the same patch of earth, like history folding over itself. The woman knelt. So did the boy. The same hands that had once cleaned one wound, now cleansed another. There was no hurry, no fear, only trust. Earned, held, returned. The older elephant stood guard, his ears still, his eyes locked. And when the fever broke, when the calf stood on his own, when the swelling eased and the limp faded, they didn't leave right away. They stayed, for days, sometimes just watching, sometimes brushing their trunks along the wooden porch rails, sometimes pressing their foreheads to the same old tree. And then, one morning, they were gone. Not like before, not like a goodbye, just gone. But the boy, now almost a man, found something near the trough, a smooth stone, rounded, black, heavy, unusual, and beside it, one deep imprint, a trunk mark, pressed into the soil like a signature, not a message, a memory, a reminder that love, once offered without condition, might one day return, asking nothing more than to be shared again. The boy places the stone on the windowsill. He touches it each morning, and when children pass by the path and ask about the trough and the trees, he simply smiles.